Well, good morning. I'm Phillip Roberts and currently serve as Cotton Extension Entomologist, and I'm located on the University of Georgia Tifton campus. I would like to take a few minutes to visit with you on the importance of pollinators to the state of Georgia in agriculture, and also discuss our pollinator protection plan. Next slide. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from the male parts of a flower to the female parts of the same or a different flower. Now, this pollination or fertilization is required for the production of seed. Now, as Jennifer explained, some plants are self-pollinated and do not require pollinators for seed production. Examples include corn, soybean, as well as cotton. Conversely, there are some plants that do require pollinator services. Many of our fruit and vegetable crops, such as squash, watermelons, and blueberries, do require insects. A lot of times it's honeybees to actually pollinate those crops. Now, if you look at the value of pollination in the state of Georgia, on an annual basis, it's estimated at over $360 million. So pollinators are important to Georgia agriculture. Now, pollination services are provided by managed honeybees, managed bumblebees, and commercial production systems. In these systems, hives are placed on field edges when the crop, the fruit or vegetable is in bloom, and then the hives are removed once bloom is complete and taken to another location to further pollinate other crops. Now, in addition to these managed pollinators, there are many native pollinators, including bees, flies, beetles, moths, butterflies, a lot of other native pollinators. And as Jennifer mentioned, bees in general outperform all other pollinators because they have a dietary need for pollen and nectar, and they have hairy bodies which carry pollen grains easily in their rapid flight from flower to flower. Next slide. Since 2006, beekeepers have been experiencing unacceptable winter colony die-offs. This is commonly referred to as colony collapse disorder. Now, many factors have been implicated in bee decline, but most scientists agree the four most important factors are parasitic varroa mites, viruses spread by varroa mites, pesticide exposure, and habitat degradation. Next slide. Pollinator protection and bee decline are highly publicized. There's a need for unbiased factual information related to bee decline and pollinator protection. University of Georgia scientists and Georgia Department of Ag representatives, with input from stakeholder groups across the state, created the pollinator protection plan for the state of Georgia. And that is Protecting Georgia's Pollinators, a state plan for promoting a large, healthy, and diverse pollinator workforce. Next slide. In creating this document, it was our objective to have significant buy-in by stakeholders. And we wanted this plan to be effective, number one, to be applicable, practical, as well as feasible. Next slide. An initial draft was completed in December of 2014. We sent that draft to stakeholder groups representing all areas of agriculture that we could think of. After they had a chance to review the initial draft, we actually had 2 stakeholder meetings or roundtable discussions to further edit the plan, which was finalized in June of 2015. Next slide. Protecting Georgia's Pollinators, a state plan for promoting a large, healthy, and diverse pollinator workforce, can be found at the link on this slide. An easier means of finding the plan is just to search UGA honeybee in your web browser, and you will see the publication on the home screen of the University of Georgia Honeybee Program website. Next slide. Again, the purpose of this plan was to provide practical suggestions to anyone interested in pollinators. One of the main components that we really stress in the plan is to encourage communication between landowners and beekeepers. And our goal was to protect not only the managed beehives, honeybee colonies, but also our native pollinators. Next slide. So the Georgia State Plan for pollinators includes 6 general sections. First is pollination and its importance to agriculture. Again, $360 million value annually. Bee decline and colony collapse disorder. The role of beekeepers, which includes information on keeping bees healthy, being a good neighbor, and some suggestions for protecting bees from pesticides. The role of pesticide users and applicators also includes discussion on integrated pest management practices. That's where we look at the insect biology, we look at cultural practices that could reduce the risk of having problems with pests in crops. So using IPM or integrated pest management, judicious use of pesticides, only using pesticides based on close pest monitoring and use of economic thresholds. Actually, insecticide selection. We talk about using pesticides that are very specific in terms of their activity on pests we choose to control, our target insect pests, and timing of applications to reduce exposure of pollinators to pesticides. Just for example, bees are typically most active in the morning. So we tend to want to avoid making pesticide applications early in the morning. The next section is the pollinator conservation section. This includes information on habitat enhancement, including conservation of bee forage and nesting sites, as well as providing supplemental bee forage plants. Now, ways to help pollinators in urban environments are also discussed. This could be planting food for bees. Another example, let's say you were applying an insecticide to your turf for a turf pest. It's a good practice to mow your grass prior to making that application to eliminate any weed flowers that may have been in your lawn that would attract bees and expose them to the pesticides. Next slide. So in conclusion, we all Georgians have a part to play in protecting pollinators. A large, healthy, and diverse pollinator workforce requires proactive stewardship from stakeholders, and this includes beekeepers, it includes farmers, it includes landowners, land managers, it includes homeowners, it includes pest control operators and applicators for insecticides. So we all have a part to play into enhancing and protecting our pollinator populations across the state of Georgia.